And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
Puts it up. Here goes Davis. Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. American Pharoah, it's finally the one. American Pharoah has won the Triple Crown. And Bonds hits way high. It's a dig. It is and the Tigers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. A shade after noon on a beautiful yet warm day here in the low country of South Carolina. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford, we're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. You can listen to us on the Podbean app. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Facebook. You can watch us on Twitter. You can watch us on God knows where else. And we appreciate you doing that. Hey, Darren.
What's up, man? Glad to have you back.
Thank you. I am glad to be back.
I bet.
This is it's been a long week for the Bradford family, but we're home, and Hannah my wife just texted me a few minutes ago, and said that she has just finally eaten something of substance, which was some homemade chicken pot pie. My mom dropped by, and she's starting to drink some water and stuff, and so we're proud parents of our young lady.
Well, you should be. I know you guys were going through a lot, and we weren't in too much communication when you guys were out there. But I'm glad that, look, of all the scenarios that could have come about, it sounds like this was about as good as it could have been. So that's really all you can ask for.
Yeah, it's yeah, as a parent, Darren, you have a lot of difficult decisions that you have to make for your kids. And, we had to make a very difficult decision to go have the size of her tongue reduced because of her syndrome, Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. And when we were in St. Louis, we started to question that decision a lot because,
really?
Yeah, just seeing the pain that she was, so we got there on Monday. Not to ramble about my story here, because we do have Grace Rayner at 12:30 today, David Cloninger at 1 o'clock, and a bunch more stuff to get to, including the heritage and NASCAR and the pandemic and things like that. But we got there on Monday, so we knew we were going to have Monday and Tuesday morning to just do whatever in St. Louis until we had appointments all day on Tuesday, and then surgery was scheduled tentatively for Wednesday morning. So we got there, and we stayed in a really cool place in just outside of St. Louis, a really cool town, and we stayed at the Sheraton. We were great rates right now. There's not a lot of people in hotels, so Sheraton rates generally pretty expensive. Don't think we went out there on vacation. That's not it. It was in this plaza, and there was a bunch of bars and restaurants and really neat stuff. So we went to eat, and we just tried to keep things as normal as possible. She was already away from her sister, so she was kind of like, "Why am I on this airplane? And where's my sister?"
Right.
And just kind of hung out. Tuesday morning, we got up and went to the Arch and put our hands in the Mississippi River and things like that, and let her run around. That's now a national park, which is really neat. If you've never been to St. Louis, it's really cool to see. And then that from there, it was pretty much downhill. The appointments and then surgery on Wednesday, and just seeing, my daughter, they had to put these things on her arms so she wouldn't try to pull everything out of her face and out of her mouth and her feeding tube and all these things, and just seeing that pain. And so since then, we've been having to very slowly reteach Hannah how to eat and drink. She didn't know how to do it, and she does have some pain. It's not a ton of pain. It's more discomfort and fear. What's going on? Where's my tongue? That type of thing. She does have a tongue. It's just going to be a normal size once the swelling comes down. So we've been through a lot of emotion the last few days. I don't really ever wish this on. This is a major surgery that we did. This is a major deal. But we were lucky enough that she did well enough where they actually released us the following day and said, you're not going to get anything here that you can't get on your own at home. And you and your wife know how to handle this. They've kind of had trained us on it. And so we went back to the hotel and kind of worked our way through it. We had Friday, and I said, look, we couldn't switch our plane. We couldn't rebook to come home Friday. It was going to be a little too early for her to travel. And also it was outrageously expensive. So we're like, do we sit in the hotel all day where she's going to think about this, or do we do something? So we went to the zoo.
Yeah, how was it?
It's the coolest zoo I've ever seen. Nice. It was the coolest zoo I've ever seen. You had to be very careful. I mean, obviously, there's a spike in cases out there and things like that. So we constantly sanitizing, have to wear masks and all that type of stuff. Stayed away from people. Yep. Didn't touch anything or anything like that. But got to see, the gorillas and the elephants and the hyenas and all this stuff. And she really enjoyed it. And I think, a little bit a sense of calm for her. And now we're home, and it's been a long weekend, but I love my daughter, and she's my hero. I mean, she's what she's gone through. You think about it from a mental standpoint, and what if you woke up one morning and somebody was putting you on a plane, and you're separated from someone you've been with your whole life, your twin, and you didn't know where you were going, and everything's fine, and all of a sudden you're gassed, and all of a sudden you wake up and you don't have a tongue and you're in pain. You don't know what's going on.
No.
She's not even a year and a half old. So it's been a long week, but and it'll be a long couple weeks to continue to kind of get where we need to go, but we'll get there. Yeah.
And hopefully, odds are pretty good that she won't even remember this years
down
the line.
She won't. She'll, I think the big fear is the near future. We do have a cancer screening coming up in 3 weeks. They have to get screened for cancer every 3 weeks because of their syndrome, every 3 months because of their syndrome. And so, next time she has to go in a doctor's office, she's going to be like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah. Not trying to do this again, dude.
Yeah. No. We're having to pin her down to put food in her mouth and stuff. It's hard.
Yeah.
But like I said, my kid's my hero, man. I look up to her now, and I don't know how else to say it. But we're good. We're glad to be back. I'm glad to be back with you.
Yep.
Hope people will call our program. I don't think I forgot our number, 321-8893.
That's it.
843-321-8893. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsRadioJB. You can follow him at Darren Goldwater, at JB and Goldwater on Twitter, and JB and Goldwater Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account anymore. I deleted it. So whatever y'all do on Facebook, I have no idea. But good for you. It sounds great.
Yep. It's a party, man. All good things on Facebook.
Always a party, right?
Yep. All good things.
It's 12:08 on this Monday afternoon. If you're hungry, DB's Cheesesteaks, they're open. Thank the good Lord. I can't wait to get one of those. This is the best cheesesteak in Charleston, dbscheesesteaks.com. Don't forget, I tweeted not too long ago, the buffalo chicken cheesesteak is my favorite. Mm-hmm. And I had somebody tweet back to me and say, I hear you, but I tried the pizza cheesesteak and I won't eat anything but that there now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I know it's good, but
that's now two options of, look, you can't possibly go wrong.
Right. In addition to just getting a regular cheesesteak.
Yeah. And the boardwalk fries.
And don't forget the boardwalk fries. Don't be an idiot. You want the boardwalk fries. So DB's Cheesesteaks, tell Danny we said hello. They're in Avondale. In West Ashley. Darren, we'll get to some positive tests. There's a bunch of news out there. A lot of these schools, obviously Clemson, we got the news a few days ago. They have a bunch of players. LSU, I think this is the most notable right now, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Certainly going to talk about that with Grace. And definitely going to NASCAR is going to race today at 3 o'clock, and they're racing today because of the weather yesterday in Talladega. But that's not what the headlines are, unfortunately, coming out of Talladega. It's really unfortunate. But let's start in the state. of South Carolina, where the Heritage finished yesterday. Webb Simpson wins the Heritage on Father's Day. Webb Simpson has now won a tournament on Father's Day and Mother's Day.
That's right. That's pretty cool. I did
Isn't
see
that cool?
that. Yes.
And also, per our friend Gene Sapikoff, who we'll talk to tomorrow, I didn't realize this, but Webb Simpson in 2004 and again in 2007 won the Azalea here in Charleston.
Yes.
So Webb's a fan of playing golf in South Carolina, apparently.
Good for him. And he beat out some South Carolina golfers.
He did. Yeah. I mean, there was I thought that was neat. I know Matt Neesmith was up there. Clemson had a bunch of their former golfers. All these guys were kind of inching their way towards the leaderboard or at the top of the leaderboard throughout the weekend. I didn't get to watch a lot of this. It was on. But Webb comes and wins $1.3 million at 22 under par, a shot lower than Abraham Answer, 2 shots ahead of Daniel Berger. So the American goes to Hilton Head and does very well. I thought that, what'd you think about the coverage, the mic'd up players, the way that Hilton Head handled this? Course looked great. Course looked beautiful. Obviously, when you get all these people at 20, 22 under par, they're nailing it out there. But as far as the coverage, Darren, I thought for what I saw, it was pretty good.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I thought they had 2 things that worked out really well for them. First of all, that rain delay, which was really a pain. The 2.5-hour delay, they start again at 5:30, 5:20, something like that. And the leaderboard is packed. Mm-hmm. So these guys know that if they're going to finish their round, because the leaders, the final group was on 2, or I think they were in the 2 fairway, maybe on 2 green. So if you're going to finish in basically 3 hours, that's how much light they had left. They had to move. So you had a leaderboard that was packed. You had movement not only from the players playing quickly and keeping the pace going, but then also movement on the scoreboard. So it was constant action and constant cutaways to different things. The other thing, without fans, it allows them to do some more creative things with their camera work. So last week we had Bob Moran on of the Volvo Car Open, and they have a tennis tournament, the Credit One Bank Invitational, that starts tomorrow. And he was saying what Tennis Channel is able to do without fans over there. They're going to have a drone hovering overhead. They'll have a rail cam also, things that you can't normally do. And you saw that at the Heritage. Some of the drone shots, especially going up 18, were fantastic. So I thought the coverage worked out very, very well.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It felt intimate at times with the players, and I thought that was neat. Would obviously love to see the fans out there again, and we will at some point in time one day. But overall, the adjustments made were great. All these other leagues, little side note, really watching the PGA this weekend to see what they're doing with their players and their coverage and things like that, how to kind of make this as enjoyable of a television experience as you can, but also how are they protecting players and things like that from the virus. Did see an interesting comment from Justin Thomas, who said, man, this island is packed. Just people everywhere. Gene Sapikoff wrote about it as well in his column in the Post and Courier, saying there were out-of-state tags from everywhere, so people vacationing into South Carolina. Hilton Head obviously is a huge vacation spot throughout the year, but most notably throughout the summer. Definitely this time of the year, whenever this tournament is played, even if you can't get on the course, it's just neat to be around the environment. So there's certainly a lot of people. But, yeah, I think very well done. Congratulations to the folks in Hilton Head on getting this tournament played. Next up, the Travelers Championship. That's in Cromwell, Connecticut, coming up this weekend. Ches Reavie, the defending champ there. And then on to the Rocket Mortgage, on to the Workday Charity Open, and then the Memorial will hit July 16th through the 19th up there in Ohio, where Patrick Cantley won it last year. So golf is in full swing, no pun intended there.
Yeah, and I'm all for it. The fact that the leaders are not just the leaders, but the top-ranked guys in the world, except for Tiger, basically, have played each of the last two tournaments.
Yep.
Tiger, there were some rumors back and forth whether or not it was actually his yacht at St. Simon Island because he didn't actually go to the Heritage. It must have been because Tiger and his son were playing one of the courses at St. Simon Island yesterday. Mm-hmm. So they were there.
So he was just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, just hanging out. And the swing that was put on social media, I don't know who videoed it because his son was in the shot and Tiger was swinging. Looked good to me.
Yeah, I mean, when do we see Tiger next?
I don't know.
I don't see him playing he hasn't announced he's playing this week, so he's not going to be playing the Travelers.
Nope, wouldn't think so.
I don't. Do we? Or is it the Memorial? I mean, he always plays the Memorial.
I think it will depend on where his health is. Obviously, how many tournaments can he play in order to play the ones that really matter the most to him?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule here. I can definitely anticipate the Memorial. I would think he'd probably play in the St. Jude in Memphis, and then 2 weeks later, or a week later, be ready to go for the PGA Championship. I don't know. I don't think it is beneficial for Tiger Woods to take a substantial amount of time off before playing in San Fran at the PGA. He's better when he plays closer to these majors. Now, we've seen in the past when he takes a bunch of time off and goes out there and try to tee it up, he's not sharp.
It's not the way it works for him.
So yeah, he's obviously having to kind of manage his body and also his schedule to be able to play at his peak performance in the biggest tournaments there. And I think most notably, Tiger wants to be ready to go for the fall.
Yeah.
Because the fall is, after the PGA, you got the Tour and you got the Open and you got the Masters and you got the Ryder Cup. You got all these things coming up, and he doesn't want to miss those. I mean, Tiger is chasing 18. That's what he wants. He wants the major record. So he doesn't want to miss those.
That's why I think with the schedule the way it is, ideally he likes to play a tournament or two leading up to the one that really matters to him, be it a major or the Memorial matters to him, and whatever ones really stick out to Tiger. But I think this year you're going to see him play less. I think you'll probably see him play just the tournaments that really matter and see if he can't get ready for those tournaments. Maybe a couple others here and there, but just the ones that really matter to him and see if he can't get ready beforehand.
No doubt. Calls, welcome, 321-8893, 843-321-8893. Tweets, Facebook, whatever it is, those chat rooms. Darren's always in there partying with you guys. I don't ever know what he's saying, but it sounds good. 10 years ago today, South Carolina dismantled #1 Arizona State in the College World Series on their way to a national championship. So figured I'd throw that in there. You mentioned Tiger's boat a minute ago. There was another boat of note that was nearby, actually very nearby, right here in Charleston. It was Michael Jordan's Catch 23 in the Billfish this weekend. I had a buddy, and I'll show you this, and I don't think he cares if we use it.
If you email it to me, I can throw it up there.
Yeah, I'll email it to you. He texted this little group text we're on a picture of Michael Jordan.
Hey now.
Who was walking off of the dock downtown.
When was that?
This was sent Saturday evening.
So Friday after the show, one of our we have two quarantine family friends that we've hung out with for the last, I don't know, it feels like 12 years. That's not a knock on them. They're good friends. One of them has a new boat. So right after the show Friday, we went down there, docked at the Daniel Allen Marina, and the water was nice and smooth. So I looked at Mackenzie. I was like, hey, let's go to the harbor. Let's see if we can't see Jordan's boat.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, but we didn't see the boat. It wasn't either we missed it or it wasn't there, and then nasty storms chased us back home.
On Saturday night?
That was Friday.
Friday.
So
yeah. Okay.
they must have been out.
What time is that?
So we left the Daniel Allen Marina around 3:15, 3:30. So we were probably right around City Marina at 4-ish.
Yeah, they probably hadn't come in yet.
Yeah. So we didn't see him.
Okay. Well, he was here. I wonder if anybody listening to this program happened to catch Jordan somewhere in Charleston. Let us know. That'd be neat to see. I doubt he was just out, bouncing around town, but you had to figure he went somewhere.
Someone put out a great tweet that said, if you're trying to figure out where Jordan's going to be tonight for dinner, call around and see which restaurant has no reservations all night.
That's true.
They're booked all night long. Good point.
Probably where you'll find him.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was neat. I don't know how well they did. I haven't even seen the results of the Billfish.
No,
but,
nothing like the week before when we knew right off the rip that he got like a 440-pounder.
Yeah, it's 440. Was it 440?
440, 442, something.
Huge. NASCAR races today at 3 o'clock on Fox. I am actually looking forward to cutting this on when I get home today. This will be some type of entertainment for our children. We might actually go out, ride the golf cart, do our own little NASCAR around the neighborhood. Martin Truex Jr. is on the pole. And interesting note I saw a little while ago, I'm not sure if you saw this or not, Richard Petty is going to be there today. He's actually going to stand with Bubba Wallace. So, unfortunately, Talladega might be the greatest track in the country. Talladega is awesome. You know, if you ask me, like, what are the big three or big four, you know, Darlington, Talladega, Daytona, you know, maybe Kingsport, something like that. I mean, it's this area. I mean, this is where NASCAR was born, right? But Talladega has so much history. It's a. You and I have talked about this before. You go down I-20 and you're passing it for like 20 minutes. I mean, it's never ending.
It's huge.
So everybody always looks forward to the race. I certainly do too. Looking forward to watching the cars run today. But unfortunately, the headlines have not been good because over the last couple of days, you've had a few idiots. I'm going to say a few because it's certainly not majority of people who've been out there, you know, flying Confederate flags and things like that. Good for you. Yeah, if you want to be stupid, be stupid. Yeah, whatever. You know, I mean, what a dumbass. Whatever dumbass is doing, that's just dumb. And then you get this story about somebody, and God only knows how they got in there, hanging a noose in the shop where Bubba Wallace's car is parked, right, where they work on it. That's his shop for the week and the whole 9 yards. So NASCAR, of course, right on top of this whole thing. Unacceptable. Actually, everybody is on top of this. This is a joke. They're going to find who did it. It's not like they don't have cameras, guys. They're going to see who's going in and out of there. They're going to figure it out, and this person is going to jail. They're going to go to prison for this. It's going to happen. But I think that the light in this tunnel was Richard Petty saying, that's my guy. He's riding my car. I'm with him. And so he's going to be out there today. I think this is the first time since the pandemic that Richard Petty's been anywhere around a racetrack, and he said he's coming. And he's going to stand there today with Bubba Wallace. That will be an incredible image on television today, Darren. Probably right before 3 o'clock, somewhere in there.
So he's 82.
82 years old.
He has not been, to a track since the pandemic started. And he said he just wants to go and hug his guy. And I think that is a great move for Richard Petty. That's number one. Number two, whoever put this noose in Bubba Wallace's trailer, the odds are pretty high that it's someone within NASCAR because there aren't fans there.
Was it in the trailer?
It was in I believe in the trailer. It was inside where they're doing work on. Would that be considered the trailer?
Oh, I didn't. Well, they have a trailer, but I didn't know if it was in the garage. Where
I think it was in the garage area where he
on site.
Mm-hmm. Definitely on site.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So now, number one, he did not see the news. So good or bad, I don't know. But obviously, he knows it was there. The odds that it was someone within NASCAR, somebody who is credentialed to be there, whether it's part of a team, whether it's a media, the odds of the person being associated with the sport are very high because it wasn't possible to get in. And there are cameras everywhere, and they are going to find this guy. And the FBI is involved in the criminal investigation aspect of this, and they have been right from the rip. Marty Smith, I thought, was very poignant. Nobody loves the race more than Marty Smith.
Maybe Ryan McGee.
Yeah.
Those
Ryan
guys
McGee.
Together are special, man.
That's true. That's true. But he was pretty emotional last night when he was on SVP's show, SVP Sports Center. And, there is a black eye around NASCAR saying, like, look, this is the type of person the sport has always tailored itself to. This is the type of person that you're not going to be able to wash away. And that was one of my first reactions. Mm-hmm. And then I heard Marty Smith, who's much more tied in than me, and said, look, NASCAR is doing everything. They're moving forward. They are doing everything right. This is horrific to them as it is to us.
No doubt.
And it's a couple people that are just ruining it. And NASCAR is set in moving forward, set in getting rid of all of the imagery, and NASCAR will come out on the other side of this. But the fact that this is going on, I tweeted last night the first thing I did when I saw this, I said to myself, Mike, I have no words. Like what? And I almost tweeted that, and then instead I went with, I almost tweeted I have no words, but I have a lot of them, and I'm pissed. And I think it is the responsibility of guys like us, white guys like us, more than anything, to step up. If you've got a friend, if you see something, if you hear something, say something. Mm-hmm. Don't just, you're my friend, you don't really mean it. no more. Like, you hear it, say something. Like, it's on us. We can do this.
I just like, this is obviously this part here, this noose hanging situation. I mean, these things, like the people that are doing these things, which it's not like we're seeing this all over the place, but just different acts like this throughout the country. Like, I don't know if the folks doing this realize, like, it's actually not serving their purpose. Like, it is backfiring on whatever they're trying to accomplish, if that makes sense.
If you're trying to say the flag is heritage and not hate, well, look, you're using a hate symbol to defend the flag.
Right. Like these people like doing this, obviously the response they want is different from the response that it is. Like, it's only bringing people more together. Like, it's creating more of a cohesive unit. You have maybe the icon of NASCAR, Richard Petty.
Yeah.
Who today, and I have his statement in front of me, who said, forget this coronavirus crap. I'm going to go stand right there. That's my guy. Like, this is my dude. He's driving my car. I'm going to be there. What do you say? I want to be there to hug my guy, right?
Yeah.
And, so like, when you do something as dumb as this and as hateful as this, all you're doing is pushing people closer together. So, like, you're the outsider looking in. Like, you're not representing people. Like, it's not like you're stirring up a bunch of people going, yeah, good for that guy, put the noose in there, all right, we're fighting back. No, that war was fought 160 years ago. Like, it's over. You know what I mean? Like, so when you see now, here's Richard Petty and Bubba Wallace, and you see him these things, like, I'm able to I'm going to try to say this word. I can't figure out how to say it. Compartmentalize.
There you go. Nailed it. Perfect.
Compartmentalize.
Don't try to get it.
Yeah.
You got it right the first time.
that hatred act and, like, slide it over here, because the greater good is coming from some moron who did nothing but bring more people together. Like, I see this, you see this, Richard Petty, which is most important, NASCAR sees this, and they're like, yeah, you're going to go to jail, and we're going to go this way. Period. The end. Like, and so it certainly is a talking point, and it should be a talking point.
Because it is further proof of the divide of the country.
Like, yeah, I mean, I think, well, I would say it a little bit differently, like, because I don't see like 50. Let's say there's 100 people in America. I don't see 50 people on this side and 50 people on this side. No. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like there's a divide in the large majority of us who, like, see reality. We want to move this country forward together. We are the United States of America, not the states.
Yep.
The United States of America. And then you have these guys who divide themselves from the rest of the country, or girls, or whoever it is. We don't know yet. And you're like, man, like, I don't want to see this stuff. Don't get me wrong. But there is a positive in this, unfortunately. And the positive is we're seeing it and going, nah, you're out. You're going to jail. The rest of us, we're going to watch NASCAR today as brothers and sisters and Americans, white, black, whatever you are. It doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't matter. You're just an American, and we want to watch the race, and that's what we're going to do. And you got good people like Richard Petty and others. And Richard Petty raced in an era where, yeah, there was racism, and the rebel flag was totally accepted, and all that stuff. And that was the time. That was the time. But here's the guy who understood that time, who understands this time, and he is able to bring all of this together. This is a very important moment, maybe the most important moment ever in NASCAR.
It's possible.
It might be. And I am really excited to see this today. Richard Petty standing there with a black driver, Bubba Wallace, who, by the way, his name's badass. Bubba Wallace.
It's perfect, isn't it?
It's just a badass name. An icon, and I think Bubba Wallace is an icon. And in NASCAR, you know what? That's bad. That's not a bad image for NASCAR. That's a bad image for a bad person.
Yep.
This is great for NASCAR. NASCAR is able to take this moment and capitalize on it and unify with this moment. It's not good. It's not good for Bubba Wallace. That's not what I'm saying. but they're able to take this and say, you see right there?
This is why we're doing what we're doing.
This is why we're doing what we're doing. And I'm good for you, NASCAR. And NASCAR's taken a hit, right, over the last, 10 years as far as popularity and things like that. Yep. You think it's not coming back right now? I guarantee you it is. There's going to be a lot of people watching this race today at 3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon.
That's true, to see the response.
They're going to see, yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of people that they're drawing in. People's hearts are opening up and going, this is cool, man. Mm-hmm. I support this. And NASCAR is going to capitalize on this in the right way. And you know what? Wouldn't it be neat to see Bubba Wallace win today?
It'd be perfect.
Maybe the story of the year.
They should almost fix the race to make it happen.
Yeah, you know.
Fine. I'll take that scandal. That's a good scandal.
Yeah,
make it happen.
That's right. That's right. All right. Happy to be back. I'm glad I'm with my buddy Darren. I did miss you last week. I really did. I enjoy what we do every day. And I'm happy we're able to do this moving forward. Hannah, Riley, if you're listening at home, Daddy loves you, and I'll be home in just a couple of hours. Hannah, keep eating. You're doing great, sweetheart. Grace Rayner, she's with The Athletic. Big news out of Clemson. They're dealing with the virus up there, and they've been dealing with it very well. She's as tied in with anybody. She's up next here on the JB and Goldwater Show.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris liquor stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
One of these drinks is gonna cloud my memory.
Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Sisko, is just off the interstate and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
As businesses start to open up around South Carolina, we have Ryan Nelson back in here to tell us about Dog and Duck Family Pubs, the 3 locations, and some new hours going on. What's up?
That's right. We now offer indoor dining and patio seating outside. The new hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. Slowly getting back into the normal routine, or so what we think, and we hope everybody comes out and supports local businesses like Dog and Duck.
And you still have family special meals as well?
That's right. Always the family-style meals, and you can always get curbside pickup or carry out. If you're not ready to venture outside yet, we're here for you.
The JB and Goldwater Show.
That's us. Because we play this.
And there are these guys in a band on stage bouncing on trampolines, and one of them is playing a vacuum cleaner on his face. It was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. This band was going for it as hard as they could. I've never seen anything like it. And I said to the bartender, I was like, who is this band? Oh, this is a band from New Hampshire called Fish.
All right, 12:34 on a warm but beautiful Monday afternoon here in the Low Country of South Carolina. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. You can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Where else can you watch us? Can you watch it on Instagram?
You can't watch it on Instagram, but Periscope is the way that it filters over to Twitter. So if you want to do that, you can do that too.
Okay. And, of course, you can listen live on the Podbean app. JB at GoldwaterShow.com is where all of that combines itself. All right, if you want to hear one of the finest voices in sports writing out there, sports reporting, sports in general, you're lucky enough to be able to do that. It's Grace Rayner. She's with The Athletic. She covers the Clemson Tigers, and she joins us now on the JB and Goldwater Show. Hey, Grace.
Hey, how are y'all?
How are you?
I'm doing well, hanging in there. Thanks for having me.
So I can't see you. I guess you get to. Are you looking at Darren? I'm sorry.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
sorry about that. You've probably had better views in your
Definitely
time.
have
okay.
had.
That's okay.
I really like the setup you got going on. I see some like a Nationals poster. It looks like.
Yeah. We got the
Yeah.
Nationals thing. Right over my shoulder. I'm a big Nationals fan. If you can't tell with the hat.
Yep.
Got some Penn State and Citadel stuff. What we need is Clemson and Carolina stuff because we've got this whole studio. We're in Charleston.
I'll provide the Carolina stuff. I just haven't done it. But Grace can send it. Grace, if you'll autograph something and send it to us.
Oh gosh,
that'd be great.
You don't want to hang that up.
No, it validates what we do around here.
Oh man.
So, there's no sports, but you're busier than ever, right?
Yes, I was just talking to a coworker today about how it feels like the off season is just not. I feel like I'm working as hard as I do in season. It's just been nonstop.
Yeah, it's been crazy. The news a few days ago out of Clemson,
23 players.
23 players. Seems like the university's handled this very well. Can you explain that situation a little bit more? I know we don't know the names of the players, and we don't really need to know the names of the players, but how they're handling this, how they quarantine these players, how they're kind of managing the rest of the roster, things like that.
Sure, yeah. So I'm sure you guys know when Clemson athletes first started reporting back to campus and they were initially tested, there were 2 football players that had tested positive for COVID-19 and 1 men's basketball player. Since then, that number has obviously grown to 23 football players. So we're seeing a major spike. But in terms of just how Clemson is handling it, the voluntary workouts are still happening for obviously the people that are not affected and are not sick. And those that are affected and are sick or who have been in contact with someone who has tested positive are being isolated. So the way Clemson is doing it is those that are positive are being isolated for 10 days at least, and they cannot come out of that until their final 3 days are asymptomatic. So, and then from there, known contacts have also been told. So just a lot of monitoring, a lot of informing people, you might have come into contact with XYZ. I think they said anyone who was within 6 feet of a positive player for 10 or more minutes is considered a known contact. So just a lot of communication and figuring out, okay, how do they, best solve this problem that seems to be going on across a lot of universities in college football right now.
Grace, it's not just the universities. I mean, the news out of Clemson and the Greenville area in general is not positive. I mean, I read something right before the show that said there could be upwards of 800 to 1,000 people around Clemson that have the virus and don't even know that they have the virus. I mean, what is the concern level right now on Clemson's campus about the upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the $1 million question, is I don't know. I don't think we know yet. And I don't know that we will know until we get a little bit closer to the season. But I mean, you guys know the size of Clemson's community. 1,000 people in that community without regular students that are not student athletes being on campus is a really alarming number. I mean, the entire Clemson community is that university. This is a college town, and so for there to maybe be 1,000 cases in a town of Clemson's size, it definitely makes you wonder kind of where this is going, and is it going to slow down anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you think about this too, I mean, it's not good that anybody tests positive. Of course, a lot of people who are testing positive are asymptomatic and things like that. But a positive test is a positive test. But the fact that it is June, these universities, Clemson, LSU, Texas, I'm kind of naming some of the notables out there which have caught the national media's attention. We're seeing this now, so they're able to at least kind of learn from this, right? I guess the next step is, all right, whenever they do decide, if they decide to welcome students back to campus, are we going to see this again? So, what have you heard from campus up there, whether it's from the administration, what they're learning, and how they might have to implement some of those changes into their plans?
So the most recent thing I read from Clemson is that they are still planning on having students back in August for fall semester. But there's just a lot of changes that they're going to be making with dining halls and residence halls. And, some of these, Clemson's obviously a very large university. So maybe some of these lecture classes that have 300 kids in it, They're looking at, okay, how can we have a simultaneous online component with these big classes? Maybe if this is a class that meets Tuesday, Thursday, do we have half show up Tuesday, half show up Thursday, and then they do the online portion of it the other day? They're talking about signage and, just education, informing these kids. I mean, there's going to be, I think we're going to see a lot of changes across college campuses across the board, especially when you look at it. I mean, I was stunned this morning to see that today's June 22nd. Like the fact that these kids are going to be coming back to campus, it feels like August is just right around the corner.
What's the feel on campus right now? Do you live in the general area as you cover them? I mean, are you able to get on campus and kind of feel what it's like? I mean, I know it's summer. I know there's not really anybody on there, but is it an eerie feeling? Is it an empty feeling? What's it like up there?
Yeah, so I live in the Greenville area, and I hadn't been to campus really since March until they had this demonstration, because everything is shut down. I mean, the students were not there. Football players just came back a few weeks ago. And so, I mean, when I was just driving through Clemson to go to the demonstration to cover it, it did feel very, like deserted. It kind of felt a little bit like a ghost town. You're driving up through the football stadium and, all these streets that you're used to seeing buzzing with either students or on game day on Saturday are pretty silent. So, I think obviously, as students start to come back and these more staff coming in terms of the athletic department and that kind of stuff, as they get into their different phases, I think it'll pick up a little bit, but it was a little bit of a shock to the system to be back on campus for the first time in a while and see, man, this place really is pretty quiet.
On Twitter at GM Rayner, Grace Rayner, covering Clemson athletics for The Athletic. Grace, there is a positive in this, though, if you ask me. I don't know if anybody asked me, but that's what I'm saying.
I'm always looking for positives, man.
because they are there. They are on campus. Clemson has millions of dollars to be able to take care of their student athletes, whereas if these athletes were home, wherever they may be from, and they don't even know what's going, they have no idea that they just came in contact with grandma who had contracted the virus, the grocery store, whatever it is, they're able to manage their players there. How are they doing that so far?
I think the big thing is the isolation part of it, for those guys that are positive and, encouraging them, hey, don't go outside. I mean, this is how this thing spreads, is when you go to places that you might not need to go to, So I think that a lot of it is communicating. I know that Clemson had a plan to say, all right, if we had a player that tested positive that we know just got a haircut at Great Clips or just was at Publix, we're going to inform those people, hey, you have come into contact with someone who is now tested positive. So I think the big way they're managing it is as soon as they know someone is positive, get them in isolation immediately and then start reaching out to as many people as possible. Hey, you might have been impacted.
Grace Rayner is with us from The Athletic. She's been covering Clemson now for a while. First time I met Grace, true story. Do you remember where it was?
Do I remember where it was? No, I don't.
We were televising a local high school football game, and the score was like 800,000 to 3. I think it was like Northwood Academy or something like that, and the clock ended up getting sped up so that we could actually finish the game because it was just an absolute disaster of a game. But so that goes back well before Grace hit it big. Now she's covering the Tigers. One of the things that concerns me, we don't know how serious the individual cases are with COVID, not just at Clemson, but everywhere else that's reporting. Most we've seen are probably asymptomatic. However, if these things happen during the season and you have to quarantine, say, the quarterback room or the offensive line group, whether or not they're overtly symptomatic, whether or not they are hospitalized and sick, you still have to quarantine them. So the odds of a football season today compared to where they were, say, 2 weeks ago, where would you put that?
Good question.
That's a really good question. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Clemson thought that they had 2 football players that have this virus. They now have almost 24. So I would say the odds have not gotten better by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I think that Texas reported 13. Yeah. Kansas State has shut down their voluntary workouts. I mean, I don't think we're trending in a positive direction right now, but I think you make a really good point too about if we get into the season, like how do you stagger practices? Are you like you said, are you isolating full position rooms? I mean, there's just so many questions that I feel like we don't have answers to right now.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, Grace, and you have to wonder too whether institutions like Clemson, or I guess it would be the athletic departments themselves, or even the coaches, will start to implement rules that traditionally we're not used to seeing. You went to North Carolina. I'm sure you've spent your fair share of time down on Franklin Street.
Mm-hmm.
I went to South Carolina. I spent my share of time in 5 Points. I know that. Clemson's has a downtown area. Everybody has an area where students congregate, they hang out, and we all know what it's like to be 18, 20 to 22, 23 years old. It's like drinking and driving. Don't drink and drive. Well, people do it anyways. So, I guess my question for everybody, if you're Coach Sweeney, do you have the conversation with your players and say, you can't go out? Do you have to put something in place that says, look, you are looking at this type of I don't want to say suspension, but some type of
you hurt the whole team
penalty if you go out and do this, and this. Have you heard anything like that? Where that might be leading with some of these programs, or especially like Clemson, where they do want to protect Trevor Lawrence.
They do want to protect Trevor. That I know.
It starts up front, Grace. We know that. It starts up front.
I haven't heard anything about a ban like that or a hard and fast rule like that. I mean, I think that, as you guys said, like at some point, these are college kids. Like you can't control their every move. I am curious to see if college football teams, though, start to maybe adapt some. Like take for example, Clemson has a self-imposed, if you will, social media ban, during the season, where the players all agree this is something that we're not going to do. So I don't know if this is something they start to address. Maybe they start to talk about it, but I don't know. Right now, you've got 120, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. It's kind of hard to monitor their every step.
No kidding. What is the next step moving on from that? Obviously, the demonstration a couple of weeks ago, about 3,000 people showed up, Coach Sweeney and Trevor, and it was a wonderful situation in Clemson. What is the next step in addressing race relations and things like that? What is the football team planning to do moving forward?
I think the biggest thing is that this not just be a one-time demonstration, and it rather be an ongoing conversation that these guys are having indefinitely. I mean, this was something that they started talking about in a senior meeting first with Dabo at his house, and then it expanded to a team meeting, and then it became the demonstration, which I thought was extremely well done. I really just admired all four of those football players and how they led that and put that together. But I think the biggest thing is that, it not stop at that. This be something that they continue to talk about, be open about, and learn about, as we all should.
Have you ever had a year? I mean, obviously, this pandemic thing is a little different, but the stories being covered in the off season, at least typically they're sports related. I mean, you've spent months now covering really non-sports related stuff. Is there anything you can compare this to in the career of Grace Rayner?
No, I mean, there's nothing I can compare this to in the life of Grace Rayner. I mean, this is just, we're living in unprecedented times. And no, I really can't. I have found myself wondering, like, how am I going to tell my kids about this one day? Like, what am I going to remember about 2020? What are going to be in the history books later? I mean, this year has just been one unlike I have ever and probably will ever see.
Let's hope.
Oh man, yeah, no doubt. I mean,
if it's getting worse from here, we're in trouble.
Yeah, right.
and it might be. It might be. Grace, Dabo, we haven't spoken with you, obviously. I was a big defender of Dabo when he was taking a bunch of heat when a lot of this stuff broke after his initial statement and things like that. And but one of the things that I kind of had in the back of my mind was, let's wait and see what the players say. because we've seen players at Florida State, now at Oklahoma State, at other institutions across the country who've kind of called their coaches out. That certainly has not been the case at Clemson. If anything, I mean, he's had a couple of former players who've said some things, but it doesn't look like there was a lot of teeth in some of those comments. And his guys quickly came to his defense, and Dabo has been a great leader ever since then. When all this kind of was getting going early, and you hadn't heard a lot from Dabo for a few days, and national media like Bomani Jones, people like that who were just jumping on him day and night, was any of that justified in your opinion?
I think so. I mean, Dabo is the highest paid employee in our state. And this is a football coach who's been really outspoken in the past, and been outspoken in the past about social issues. And so I think it was fair to say, okay, why aren't we hearing from him when we were hearing from so many other coaches across the sport? So I think to want to hear from the Dabo Sweeneys and the Will Muschamps of the world in this state is important. And, Dabo had said, look, I spent the first couple of days just listening. And that's when he had that team meeting, the senior meeting, which I've heard was very emotional and just a lot of vulnerable, open conversations. And that was when he did decide to talk. But yeah, I think that people wanting to hear from Dabo is reasonable, given especially what he said in the past and kind of how he's handled those situations previously.
Very well said.
Well, we've fallen right in line with the odd off season and not talking football at all in 20 minutes that we've been talking to you. So let's talk a little football here.
Most importantly, will Clemson ever lose a game again?
Right, well, close, very, very close. So what's the biggest roadblock on Clemson's schedule if we can get this season in?
The biggest roadblock on their 2020 schedule?
Yep.
Notre Dame on November 7th on the road. I don't think there's a close second.
Yeah.
I think that's their, that's their non-conference marquee game they're going to need for their resume. It just feels like everything's kind of cyclical with Clemson now. They just blow out everyone in the ACC and, make your resume and move on. But yeah, I think it's the Fighting Irish, and after that, I think it's pretty much smooth sailing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Darren and I kind of talked about this a little while ago. There's a couple that you probably want to circle on there. I mean, look, the last 6 years has not been kind to South Carolina, so it's difficult to circle that game right now. But it is a rivalry, so you always at least put a pencil around it. But I am anxious to see in mid-October what Florida State looks like. I'm not saying that Clemson will lose that game. I don't think they will. And I think they'll go down there and play just fine, and they'll walk out of there comfortably winning the game. But that does give Florida State about 5 or 6 weeks to kind of get things going under Coach Norvell, and also week 1. I mean, again, Clemson's not going to lose to Georgia Tech, but what does Jeff Collins? What do those guys look like? That game is in Atlanta. It is on a Thursday night. So there are some interesting tests in the first half of the season that I think might give you some information, Grace, as to where Clemson could finish at the end of the season, ultimately trying to win another national championship.
Yeah, for sure. Those are, I'm equally as interested in what Jeff Collins can do at Georgia Tech, equally as interested in Florida State. I also have my eye on Louisville. I think everyone would agree. They very much exceeded expectations in Scott Satterfield's first year. And then I think if you're looking, maybe a little bit bigger picture, North Carolina gave Clemson the best game that they had last year and could be a contender to win the Coastal. I mean, I think that the ACC is making progress. I think the gap is still massive. No. And I don't think it's going to be closed this year, but you're right. There are a couple where you raise an eyebrow and you're kind of intrigued, like, okay, what are these guys going to look like in year 2, 3, 4? Like, are we at least making progress towards closing this gap?
Is there a better offense in the country than what they have in the upstate? I don't know.
I mean,
or defense.
Yeah, that's true.
I haven't seen. Well, the 2019 LSU offense was the only offense I saw all year that was better than Clemson's last year. I mean, they just return. I do think they take a big hit with no Justin Ross, and that's going to be something that they're going to have to really address. And some young guys, some inexperienced guys, are going to have to step into a pretty massive role there. But you look at Trevor coming back, Travis coming back, you got Amari, Ladson, and then Ngata on the outside. I think they're vulnerable up front. They're young up front, so they're going to need to work out some kinks there. But yeah, this is when you've got Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback. I'm not going to really be asking too many questions about your offense.
No, not at all. And Justin Ross is a huge loss, but then you just plug in Jerry Rice or Sterling Sharp or whoever else they have on that roster up there. Jeff Scott at South Florida. How does that change the dynamic of play calling? I mean, I think Tony had mostly his hands on a lot of what we saw, but does that change anything at all for their offense?
I mean, Tony and Jeff were obviously always communicating. It was very much a co-coordinator role, but Tony has been the primary play caller since they both slid into that role, which would have been at the end of the 2014 season, right before 2015. So that part won't change. You know, Tony will still be in the box and he'll be making all the calls. And then from there, I'm sure, you know, Brandon Streeter is going to be a little bit more involved as the passing game coordinator now, but from a logistics standpoint, it really doesn't change much for these guys.
Who's the next coach on this staff to get a head job somewhere?
I mean, I think Tony and Brent are both really qualified, desirable candidates. I mean, I think schools have probably tried to hire them in the past. So I would say one of them, although with Brent Venables, you know, this has come up a lot about whether he even really wants to be a head coach. And, you know, he's always said that he's really happy at Clemson and, you know, he's got both of his sons coming through the program. So I don't know who's next, but I do know that any program really would be lucky to have Tony or Brent.
No doubt. I mean, if you're Brent, why would you leave if you're Brent? You make $2.5 million a year.
You got to want to be a head coach.
I mean, he is today's version of Bud Foster from the 90s.
Sure.
In early 2000s, right, Grace? I mean,
yeah, for sure. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, he's sensational. All right, what are we looking for in the Athletic in the near future from the great hands of Grace Rayner?
Man, well, I mean, this COVID stuff is obviously things that we need to follow, you know, throughout the rest of really 2020, to be completely honest. So definitely we'll have some stuff there. And then I've been trying to do a little bit of recruiting. I've got a fun story coming up on Brian Brzee, the #1 recruit in the nation. Just talking to some people who know him well. So kind of a mixed bag, I would say, you know, trying to write some football things when it's appropriate and when it lends itself to it. But obviously the news is going to be important as we head down this stretch.
No doubt. Yeah, Clemson's lucky to have you covering their football program, their entire athletics department, and everything else in the upstate. You're one of the best in the business, Grace. There's no doubt.
Oh, thank y'all. I really appreciate that. And thanks for having me. This was really fun.
We read your stuff on the air. We just regurgitate it. That's our show daily.
Make it sound better for me, all right?
Pretty much.
No, Jen, we credit you, but that's usually our show. It's this is what Grace said today and so long, folks. So
doctor it up a little bit for me.
That's right. Thank you so much. Stay safe. We really appreciate it. We'll check back in with you as we get closer to football season and we can actually talk about some position battles and fun stuff like that, okay?
Yeah, anytime. You all be well, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank
all
you,
right,
Grace.
stay safe. You
there
too.
You go. One of the wonderful folks out there working for a wonderful publication as well, theathletic.com. Grace Rayner, GM Rayner, at GM Rayner on Twitter. All right, it is time for a timeout. Hour 1 is in the books on this Monday afternoon, June the 22nd. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks to Grace. David Cloninger, he's up next. We're going back to back today. We got the Clemson side of things. We're going to get the Carolina side of things. Much quieter in Columbia lately on this pandemic situation. So we'll see if there's an update there. And we'll talk to David about some budget stuff and things like that as well. So hang tight. The Anthem kicks off hour 2, and the JB and Goldwater Show will be right back.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks. Not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris liquor stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Sisko, is just off the interstate and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
As businesses start to open up around South Carolina, we have Ryan Nelson back in here to tell us about Dog and Duck Family Pubs, the 3 locations, and some new hours going on. What's up?
That's right. We now offer indoor dining and patio seating outside. The new hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. Slowly getting back into the normal routine, or so what we think, and we hope everybody comes out and supports local businesses like Dog and Duck.
And you still have family special meals as well?
That's right. Always the family-style meals, and you can always get curbside pickup or carry out. If you're not ready to venture outside yet, we're here for you.
Patriots Point proudly presents the national anthem of the United States of America.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right, 101 here on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. Podbean is where you can listen, and then you can watch YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope,
all of them.
Wherever.
All
JBandGoldwatershow.com. You can find all of that stuff there and pick your platform of choice.
That's right.
At JBandGoldwatershow.com. All right, back to the phone lines we go. We follow up Grace Rayner on the Clemson side of things with our good buddy, the one and only David Cloninger with the Post and Courier in Columbia. Hey, brother.
How you doing, Jamie?
Oh, well, Grace is easier to look at than you, but we're good.
Well, luckily,
we don't have him on video.
Right? Yeah, his
I
computer.
can only work with what I have.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, we've got David just over the phone because his computer conveniently busted as we've started using video. Uh-huh.
I mean, that is the truth, although I have always said I have a face made for radio. But yeah, great way to end my first Father's Day there by my computer crapping out on me. So
That's right.
We're currently doing some alternatives there.
Happy belated Father's Day to you. This was my second, so I know it was your first, DC. How'd it feel?
Well, it was kind of weird, but it just kind of got into the routine of feeding a little critter and having some good play time. And we introduced him to his play pool yesterday, so it was honestly kind of a surprise, Jamie, because when I got up and saw the card, on the kitchen counter, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I do get to celebrate this now.
Yeah.
I mean, usually I'm just calling my dad and my granddad, bless his heart, but it's it was kind of a strange feeling, but after that it just settled into just another day.
Well, happy Father's Day. Congratulations on your first Father's Day. It's awesome. It's a great. Darren's like rookie, so I've been doing this for 8 years.
This is 7 or something like that.
Darren wakes up and has mimosa and whatever else he does with his life. I don't know. But,
that's daily, right? I wake up with my mimosa, pinky in the air, everything.
Right.
What do you mean, wake up? I mean, aren't you just still coming in from the night before?
Yes.
That's how I used to do it when I was single.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, DC. So just talked to Grace. Obviously, Clemson with some big news a few days ago. They got a bunch of guys up there in quarantine. It's been rather quiet in Columbia. Is it still quiet?
Yeah, it's pretty quiet, and it's because they have made the decision not to release their numbers about whether it's positive or whether it's negative. I mean, you can say what you want about their decision to do that. Most schools are being open about their tests. Georgia is not. They're one of the few that's not. But, USC just decided after talking with the players' parents, we didn't want that kind of information out there. That's what the parents said. So Will Muschamp agreed. And, when you do that, Jamie, the natural response is like, well, they're trying to hide something. So doing my own checking, yes, I do believe there are some positive tests among the USC football team, but no, nobody's being hospitalized or anything like that. So pretty much it's what you expected, that you knew there were going to be some positive tests and you were just going to have to deal with it.
David, with what's going on around the country, if we're just going to stick in the SEC, LSU's numbers were somewhat startling over the weekend. And I asked Grace this question as well, and pretty much anyone that's covering college football. That's now my number one question is with the rise in cases and the likelihood of being quarantined for a couple of weeks if you happen to test positive during the season. Do you think that the scale of playing college football this year is starting to slide back in the opposite direction now?
Well, I think it has to because, college football was kind of following the lead of really the rest of the United States and saying that, we want this thing to be over, so we're going to act as if it is over. And obviously that is not the case, especially here in the great state of South Carolina. So you hope that everything will flatten out and everything will proceed according to plan, but you see the number of positive tests among athletes and say, how's that going to be? So everything, has been handled to kind of get everybody acclimated to this. There is strength in numbers. Maybe there's a herd immunity kind of factor, although I know nobody wants to risk that in getting to that step. But you just have to wait and see what's going to happen. I mean, it's like I was talking with a couple of athletic officials the other day, and they say, we love the way we plan for this. We love our models and we trust them. But what happens if everything goes to plan? And everything's ready for September 5th, the conference opener. And then on September 4th, Coastal Carolina calls up and says, hey, half our team's sick and our coaches are too, so we're not coming. What happens then?
Right.
So we're dealing with such an unknown here that it's just, you can try what you want to do it, but I think we're going to get back to the kind of the double-edged sword. If you have a herd immunity factor among your football team, that's good because it means probably no one's really going to get really sick off of this, especially a 22-year-old in excellent shape. But you can't do that. You can't expose everybody to this hoping to get herd immunity because then you're putting players' lives at risk. So it's really a conundrum that everybody's trying to do, and everybody's just hoping that their preemptive measures will work.
Have the players been adjusting to different safety measures? I guess what I'm asking here is, have you seen a lot of players off campus, or have you heard reports of players? I mean, it's hard. This is hard. These are kids. I mean, they want to go do stuff. I get that. We all did it. But I mean, they're football players who are on scholarship. They're compensated for being there. It's a little bit of a different platform than just your average college kid, so they might have to adhere to some different standards. Or have you seen or heard anything like that? And have you seen or heard anything from the university, maybe at some point in time, instituting some type of different rule system where they're not going to allow kids into 5 points in places like that?
Well, I haven't seen anybody for sure, Jamie, because I haven't been out. I barely leave this house, and it's just one. I really don't have any place to go because I can do my job from the kitchen counter. Very thankful to have a job, during these times, but there's no sports to cover. There's no coaches to go talk to in their office or practices to cover. So it's one of those where I haven't seen anybody out. Now, have I heard of it? A couple things. They are college kids, and, even in the summer when most of the student body isn't here, 5 Point's still open, Vista's still open, and there are things in 5 Points in the Vista that attract college players, meaning girls.
Yeah.
And some of the of-age ones want to have a couple of beers. Well, I don't think you can begrudge them that. So I've heard some of that. But nothing alarming. It's not like there are huge parties going on, anything like that. But in terms of a rule change, USC technically can't do that because 5 Points is not part of USC. Now, the coaches can say you're banned from doing that, but then they're going to have the consequences of if somebody breaks that rule. And it always gets back to the point of how bad are you willing to hurt your team for a kid going out with his girlfriend or something like that. So, Will Muschamp has said there's not a ban. There's not, you can't go here, but it's please be smart.
Yeah.
Be smart about what you're doing. And the teams that's going to win this year are going to be the mature teams.
That's
and
right.
Not to say, that USC hasn't done this or whatever, but I've read a couple instances at LSU and at Kansas State, a lot of positive football tests are the same guys that were like a big group party a couple of weeks ago or at a Baton Rouge nightclub a couple of weeks ago. So it's, guys, you don't know who's going to have it and who's not. So be smart, wear your mask, and pretty much try to avoid those situations.
David, I read an article today. I think it came out over the weekend, maybe towards the end of last week, but I refreshed myself on it today, and it was about the dangers of the coronavirus in college football because of the different testing practices for every school. I mean, there are leagues that have outlines and there are conferences that have given guidelines, but each school individually is responsible for how they go about testing, quarantining, and their procedures. So with that as the backdrop, just refresh us on what South Carolina's policy will be. I know we won't know who the players are or how many, but their policy on testing and what happens next.
Well, pretty much, guys, what they're doing now during voluntary workouts, they have the players separated into groups or what they call clusters. That's usually 4 or 5 guys at a time. And just considering how most of the freshmen or all of the freshman class and most of the sophomore class is living at the 650 Lincoln dorm, those 4 or 5 guys you're in a cluster with are your roommates. So it doesn't matter your position or anything like that. It's just the 4 or 5 guys that you're living with that you're kind of going into the ops building with and leaving with. And everybody gets temperature screened when you come in. If anybody's showing symptoms, they're immediately taken out, examined, and quarantined if they have to go to that step. And then they break up the workouts so that there's 4 main workout sessions per day with the weight room sterilized and cleaned every time in between. So there's very little, there's no team-wide meetings. There's hardly any position group meetings. They're still doing those by Zoom and not in person. So they're doing everything they can to limit the spread if anybody is testing positive because they don't want to have this kind of group, infection that's been happening in other places. But to me, it's going to come to a case where, I don't know if you can fully avoid it because sooner or later, everybody's going to have to be together in one locker room and one team meeting room, and you're just going to have to take your chances. I mean, that's a horrible way to put it, but really that's the only option you have.
Well, but coming with that, though, is I'm going to say the word comfort. It might not be the right word, but that's what I'm going to use here. There's got to be at least some of that on South Carolina's side and knowing that we'd rather these kids be here because we don't know where they are if they're not here. If they are here and something happens, which we're seeing across the country, we can take care of this. We have facilities for this. We have doctors for this. We have people specifically for this right here. So obviously these schools, we're talking about South Carolina in particular here, have set themselves up to be able to handle this situation. And it's not a good thing, but it might be a good thing that they are at least seeing this while they're on campus and in their care.
Well, that was the impetus to trying to bring them back as a group, Jamie, at the beginning of this month. They said, we have the facilities and the care to do that. These players don't have to pay for tests on their own or anything like that. And if we have them here, even if they come in infected, we can deal with it after the fact and make sure that they don't get infected again. So you're trying to create that little bubble, safe space, if you will, to where everything's controlled by you, and if something happens, then you know, and you've got it under control, and you're taking the proper protocols to prevent it happening again. So it's when you leave to go home, to visit mom and dad, to go to the beach for a weekend, even just, going to the record store for something. That's when you have to start worrying again about what's going to happen with these kids. So the football team is in their own group. The basketball teams return to campus, men and women. That's been delayed because the NCAA's pushed back to say voluntary workouts can start on July 20th. That's good and bad in that they were planning to bring them back at the end of this month, so they're losing a good 3 weeks of potential conditioning time, but it's also good in this. Once they come back, Jamie, those teams will be here through August, through the start of the season, and they won't be going home. So if anybody contracts something, you can take care of it here, and you never have to worry about them going home and getting it from somewhere else.
David Cloninger, Post and Courier, covers the Gamecocks as well as anyone. He's with us now. You can find him on Twitter, DCPNC. That's where you can find Cloninger. If we weren't talking coronavirus and whatever else is dominating the news cycles right now, what would we be covering for South Carolina athletics on a normal year, late July or June, I guess?
In the end of June, you would hopefully be covering a deep South Carolina baseball run.
Yep.
But, this would be the time where they're in the College World Series, and, it's tough to get there. I know South Carolina made it look easy on occasion, but it's tough. So you would either be talking about, South Carolina had a regional/super regional appearance, and that's really good. So everything seems to be stabilized, and maybe let's talk about a contract extension for Mark Kingston. If they had not made the postseason, maybe we'd be having a different discussion right now, because no matter what how the program is when you come in, no matter anything like that, if they had missed the postseason, it would have been the fourth time in 6 years, and that's unacceptable here. That cannot happen, not here. So, maybe we would be having a different discussion, but we'd be looking at what the softball team had done. We'd be looking if any track and field individuals were going to be national champions. They had 2 of those last year. And it would just kind of be gearing up for the big return to Atlanta for SEC Media Days. Well, I'm sure as you guys saw, that's been canceled now, and it'll go virtual. So, I'm not sad to be missing a trip to Atlanta, especially with all this coronavirus stuff going on, because while I like the event, while I understand its importance and the hoopla of it, I can't think of any better way to spread this than by being in a room of over 1,000 media folks, plus fans, plus coaches and players. I mean, they had to do it, and, it was not a surprise to see that they did.
Have they given you – I haven't seen anything in my email from the SEC as to how they're going to conduct media. I mean, I know it's all virtual, but the schedule, things like that, how this is all going to unfold?
Not a bit, Jamie, and I think it's probably they're still working through the logistics. They even said that dates and times will be finalized later, so that makes me think that maybe they're not going to do it when it was originally scheduled, which I believe was July 13th for the start. And if you think about it, Jamie, if they're going to do this all by Zoom, how's that going to work? I mean, can you fit over, say 400 media members, which, that was that big room in Birmingham that we all sat in. Can you fit all those on a Zoom call? I don't even know. How do you answer ask and answer questions? How's it going to be with all the players when they usually cycle through all these different rooms? I mean, it'd be one thing to have them on the SEC network and just kind of put their words out there in public for everyone to get, but that kind of robs the competition angle and kind of robs the, I'm trying to get something that no one else has, something nice like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. The SEC network says they'll have wall-to-wall coverage. So what does that entail? Do the players and coaches have to go to Charlotte, the network studios? I mean, that doesn't seem very safe to me, especially when you can do it by a computer screen sitting on the couch. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but I have not received any further details or even any speculation about what's going to happen with Media Days. All I know is that one day you'll get an email, and then we can plan from there.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I'll make 2 quick points on that on your comments here. Number one, you don't have to fend off as many people for that first question if there's not 400 people on a Zoom call. That's one. Number two, I know you have some young ears in the background there, so forgive me, but it does eliminate some of the dumbasses that go to this thing and ask these questions that are not even out of left field. They're like beyond the left field wall in the lake somewhere, and you're trying to figure out what are you getting at here. Hopefully we won't have to deal with that this year.
That's one thing. I mean, a lot are there just for some sound bites or whatever, and sometimes you can get some really interesting news that come out of it. I say that because I went in to talk to Kelly Bryant last year and waited till he was kind of at the table, and you're never going to get him alone. So I waited until it was only about me and 6 other guys around there and said, Kelly, did you get a national championship ring from Clemson last year?
Yeah.
And he said, no. I'm like, okay, well, has there been any discussion about getting you one? No. Turned into a big story.
Yeah,
So they're like, well, why is that not, going to happen? So, but other times, yeah, it's just, Coach, where'd you get your suit? Coach, what kind of car did you drive in 1982?
That's right.
And these both came from the same, I'm not going to call him a reporter, I'll call him a media member. Over years past, both of these questions came from the same guy, and I won't tell you who it was. Mm-hmm. But one was a really great story about why Les Miles eats grass.
Oh.
Turned into a great little thing. And the same guy, a couple years later, asked Tim Tebow if he was still a virgin at Media Day in front of a room. I'm like, really, man? Really?
Oh, my God.
I mean, why is it any of your business? So
what's
it's hit or miss. It's hit or miss, as always. I'll ask my share of stupid questions, just not in that kind of
right.
way.
I mean, we all ask stupid questions, but we don't intentionally ask the stupidest of questions.
Yeah. I mean, one of the best ones I got was when remember when Connor Shaw was entering his senior year, coming off that foot injury, and it turned out he went skydiving.
Yeah.
And that didn't sit too well with Steve Spurrier. Yeah. Well, that year at Media Days, I think 9 of the teams brought their QBs. So I went around to the other 8 and asked them, yeah, you ever been skydiving? Just to see. Turned into a fun little story. But my favorite one was Johnny Manziel, the famous Johnny Football. Walking out the room, I just said real quick, Johnny, you ever been skydiving? And he's like, no, I'm scared to death of heights. I'm like, you're scared of heights. Okay.
Maybe that's why he's fallen off the map like he did.
If only I'd have asked, hey, are you scared of,
success,
your reputation in dirt?
That's right.
By the way, I have gone skydiving, and it was a ton of fun. I won't do it again.
No, I'm never doing that.
I have done my fair share of bungee jumping as well. Also something I will not do again. Yeah. But I survived, and it was fun.
I don't trust airplanes or any of air travel at all. If man was meant to fly and born with wings, so no offense to you, but I can't ever think of anything more foolish than getting up and jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
Me neither.
It was beautiful.
God bless the paratroopers and those guys and gals overseas for what they do, because now I just flew on 5 planes last week, and I hate flying. But anyway, so you mentioned Connor Shaw. Let me ask you, and maybe you've got something brewing on this. I'm not sure if I somehow ruin it. I apologize. But what is his role now? I mean, you think about this. I mean, he's in charge of the Beyond Football program, which obviously Marcus was in charge of prior to, and now since Connor has taken over, you've got race relations. You've got the pandemic. I mean, he has maybe, outside of Will Muschamp, the toughest job in the athletics department in handling the lives of 120-plus football players from everything. I like eating Cheerios better than I like eating Frosted Flakes, to girlfriend problems, to race issues, to health issues, family whatever it is. Has anybody spoken with Connor Shaw and how this program will be, maybe altered a little bit moving forward to better help a lot of these student athletes?
Oh, sure. And, I think that they knew that there was never going to be a set job description for his position outside of, well, you're in charge of the Beyond Football program and, just do with that what you will, address it how you want to address it. So what he's able to do now, guys, is just talk and listen. You got over 100 young men who are probably confused, angry, want to ask questions, want to talk about what they're feeling, with the events going on in the country, and that's what Connor Shaw can do, whether that be one-on-one or whether that be in a small group or whether it's a team-wide Zoom meeting. Some things are fun that he does. He organizes a Madden football online tournament just between the guys so they can have a little bit of fun, And then there's other things like this to say, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to talk about. Ask me anything you want, and I'll try to guide you and counsel you to what's going on. And also, they set up speakers to come in and talk to the team, whether that's the police chief, whether that's a local pastor, whether that's community activists, who just come in, and they're not trying to goad or intimidate or anything like that. They're just saying, let's talk. Let's get our feelings out, just so you don't have to feel like you got to keep yourself locked inside. So it's definitely an interesting role for him. I did a piece on him probably about a month ago now, and, of course, that was before all this happened. But, it's Connor. Everybody trusts him. Everybody's still young enough to remember him when he played, and they've seen him play at the highest level, And so if you want to have a guy that's been there, go talk to Connor. And his main role is to always have an open ear.
Yeah, I would love to grab him one day and just dive into some of this stuff. I mean, when you say beyond football, we are certainly beyond football with the issues we've been dealing with here. And then and just see how that dynamic works. I can only imagine what it takes off of the shoulders of Will Muschamp. All right, so DC, I'm kind of assuming here that moving forward, you're actually going to be able to write some stuff, about the season, like things that might actually happen.
Well, that would be good. Now go ahead and throw in a free plug here. Be sure to check out the Post-Courier this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You're going to see something that longtime USC fans will really like, because I'm having a lot of fun writing it. So just be sure to check it out this weekend.
So a 3-part thing? Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
3-part thing, yes. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Fantastic.
All right.
Now, see, this is what I'm talking about. We need this stuff. Keep doing these things. Have you been watching a bunch of old games and things like that?
Sometimes, it's been fun. In some ways, it's been not so fun. In other ways, like if you're flipping around and you see a game that South Carolina might have lost in the most excruciating way possible, or you see, it's great when they replay the 1995 World Series. But I was flipping around the other night, and there was the 1996 World Series on. I'm like, oh. And all those memories just keep flooding back, and not particularly pleasant ones. So it's been fun to watch that, to see the evolution of the game. But really, man, it's also one of those things that I watch sports so much, it's kind of good to just turn it off and just kind of sit for a while and read a book and, just do whatever you got to do. And, of course, I am, taking care of my son at the same time. So it's just one of those where you do what you got to do, but in terms of researching for stories coming up, yeah, I've been watching quite a few old games, in the past, I guess, probably 2 or 3 weeks, just to kind of refresh my memory of what happened, about what I'm writing about.
Well, I look forward to speaking with you here in the future. Certainly going to keep our eyes on what comes out this weekend, this 3-part series, Saturday through Monday in the Post and Courier. And then as we get down the road here a little bit, we'll start to kick around some schedule conversation and some position battles and things like that. Hopefully we'll be playing football come here in just a couple of months. David, thank you so much, brother. Happy Father's Day to you. Your first one, that is fantastic. I hear him in the background saying "Go Gamecocks," so that's pretty neat, and we really appreciate that, brother. Have a great week.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. There you go, David Cloninger on Twitter at DCPNC. That's what I'm all in on that there. Like longtime Gamecock fans will appreciate.
Yes.
Saturday through Monday. Okay, that fits my family to a T.
I was going to say that's pretty much you are the desired demographic here.
Yeah, I'm going to wake up Saturday morning quite early. I do that anyways with the kids. I was actually just looking at the schedule. I just have a bunch of Carolina stuff up on the when we talk to our Carolina guests.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
And it kind of reminded me that was it last week or maybe the week before when I was looking at, I always look at the schedule. I don't know why. I always look at it. First of all, in the next couple of weeks, we should receive some kick times for the first 3 weeks of the year. I'm thinking it's going to be right around media days.
It's going to happen, and they're working towards that because there have been a couple of games that have already been switched because of TV.
Yeah.
One of them, what was it, Ole Miss Baylor, I think, was moved back one day to fall in line with an ESPN window. So we don't have all the times or any of them really, but we do know that the process is moving, that if we can actually get on the field, the process of slating games is absolutely underway.
Well, and this news this morning from Chris Lowe, NC State Louisville. This is really interesting. North Carolina State at Louisville has been moved up a day to avoid the conflict with the Kentucky Derby, which is Labor Day weekend. So they're going to play on Wednesday, September the 2nd at Louisville.
At least they've got, a Wednesday game middle of the season. That's tough. At least it's the opener. Yeah, so you can schedule your practices leading up to try and make it as normal a game week as possible.
Yeah, so I mean, if we do have the season played, which I still think we will, but if we do have the season played, you're going to have that opening weekend. Well, it does open the weekend before, but really Labor Day weekend is what everybody focuses on. So you'll have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 6 straight days of college football games and good ones. Because you have that game. You've got
and the Derby.
You got the Derby's that weekend. You've got Georgia Tech and Clemson playing that Thursday night. Who's on Friday? Somebody's on Friday. Bunch of games Saturday. There's a big one Sunday and Monday. So you got 6 straight days to truly open college football season.
If we can get to that point, if it can happen, it will be like the greatest week of all of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way it would feel.
I mean, can you just imagine what people the relief to be able to cut on TV and see football? And
I felt a similar wave last weekend and this weekend, sitting on the couch just watching golf, like actual competition.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it.
That's also the same weekend as the Tour Championship in Atlanta, and I already had said you've got Georgia that weekend. They got a big game. They've got who do they play that weekend? I'll have to go look at that. But anyway, we had talked about this before. You're not going to be able to get any hotel rooms around there if there's fans welcome to all these sporting events at that point in time.
Yeah.
But they might also all be empty because nobody might be able to go.
That's the other side of things. Correct.
So we'll just have to see how it kind of all unfolds here. But all right, it is 1:31 on a Monday afternoon. Speaking of golf, real quick before we go to break, PGA Championship has received the green light to move forward minus fans. The first major championship to be contested in 2020 will be played in San Francisco. No spectators in August 6th through the 9th. So pretty much knew that was coming.
Yeah, not surprising, but glad they're still planning to play.
That is official. Baseball, are they going to play this year? Or are we going to still teeter-totter around on this thing?
If you're asking me right now, my answer is pretty darn close to no.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, spring training has been shut down.
Yeah, Arizona and Florida have been shut down. The Mets and Yankees have both said if spring training starts again, they'll be practicing in New York. Most teams are expected to practice in or around their home ballpark.
Why would you not do that anyways, Darren? I mean, honestly, think about it for
in
a second.
this type of a situation,
right.
It seems like it's a lot easier.
That's just so much easier. Put them in your own ballpark. Why put everybody on planes and send them to Florida or Arizona or wherever?
I agree.
It just doesn't make sense. You know, and it almost doesn't even make sense to play the spring training games. Practice, inter-squad, do what you need to do. Maybe 1 or 2 of them, and then go.
Yeah, and just do, sim games for your pitchers. I know it's not the same thing, but
it's just it's uncomfortable. It's just going to be uncomfortable.
Or maybe just play the team closest to you. Maybe the Nats and Orioles play 10 times in 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, and if you're the Braves, you play the Braves. I mean, there's nobody close to Atlanta. So
it's a good point.
Tampa or Miami, I guess. I don't know. All right, final break of the afternoon. The rest of the day is open. Our phone lines, if you're listening and you'd like to be a part of our conversation, you can do it. 843-321-8893. 843-321-8893. He mentioned the Yankees. Anybody heard what Griffey said about the Yankees? If you haven't, I'll tell you what the slugger, one of my favorite players ever, had to say about putting on pinstripes when he was playing. It wasn't good. I'll tell you that.
I was gathering it wasn't very good.
Wasn't good. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks. Not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris Liquor Stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Cisco, is just off the interstate and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
As businesses start to open up around South Carolina, we have Ryan Nelson back in here to tell us about Dog and Duck Family Pubs, the 3 locations, and some new hours going on. What's up?
That's right. We now offer indoor dining and patio seating outside. The new hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. Slowly getting back into the normal routine, or so what we think, and we hope everybody comes out and supports local businesses like Dog and Duck.
And you still have family special meals as well?
That's right. Always the family-style meals, and you can always get curbside pickup or carry out. If you're not ready to venture outside yet, we're here for you.
Hey, this is JB. Pull out those phones and hit that call button on the Podbean app. We'd love to hear from you. Now, back to the show.
Hello? Hello?
All right, 1:35. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. Real quick note, too, on baseball. The players were actually set. It was yesterday they were supposed to vote on returning, but they pushed that back because they've been closing all their facilities because of the COVID-19 outbreaks. So we should have a vote. I don't know. They're trying to gain more information, basically, is what they're trying to do here. And then vote on this, 60-game schedule. And and everything else that's involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
So we should have a vote sometime this week, hopefully, from the Players Association. But we don't necessarily – they're still gathering information on how to safely move forward. And once again, a little fearful that we might not have another season. This time it would be Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, apparently there was one last – I guess olive branch, if you will. Manfred yesterday, I guess the players were on a conference call with Clark, the rep, and he extended something out there. The concerns right now are if we play and then stop the season, what does that mean going forward? What are the postseason shares? What happens to that? Does the postseason still change in 2021? So Manfred has kind of walked that back, and part of the latest proposal was saying if we cut the season short, then the postseason models that we have for 20 and 21 will be wiped off the table, as will the DH rule. So we will still be able to see pitchers hitting in the National League if the season starts and then stops.
That's right. It's a mess, but they're trying to work through it. Hopefully you heard the national anthem at the top of the hour. And the national anthem every day is brought to you by our friends at Patriots Point, the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum in Mount Pleasant, patriotspoint.org. They took the white glove pledge, just so you know. By displaying that sign, they declared that they have taken the white glove pledge based on CDC, DHEC, and Accelerate SC guidelines. So they're being very careful over at Patriots Point. If you'd like to get over and see the Yorktown, see the Medal of Honor Museum, the Clamagora, the Laffey, the Vietnam War exhibit, so much to see at Patriots Point. They're doing their part in trying to keep you safe. So if you've got family coming to town, you got the 4th of July weekend coming up, there are no fireworks. this year on the at the Yorktown or in Charleston Harbor, but they will welcome you to the museum. So they're being very careful. If you'd like to take your friends and family out to Patriots Point, please do so. And say hello to Chris Half and the staff out there. They're just wonderful people. It's just one of the most beautiful museums in the country. They do an incredible job trying to educate you on the history of our nation through our military and what they have done. I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen everything there. A couple years ago, I've known Mac Burdett a long, long time. Played for him when I was just a kid when he coached me in the rec leagues in Mount Pleasant. A few years ago, Mac invited me as a member of the media to take a very special tour. I got to see things most people don't get to see. And so we went down below the flight deck, way like to the bottom of the ship, which is actually sunk into the mud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it goes about 90. The ship actually goes about 90 feet below the water line.
That it goes 90 feet below the water line?
Yeah, it goes way down.
Wow.
And so it's actually, there's probably about 80 or so feet actually in the mud. So that ship's not going anywhere.
Well, I didn't think it was going anywhere.
It's not moving. And so I got to go down there and see a bunch of stuff. And just see, and he took me through. Mac is, Mac served our nation, big, proud representative of the United States military. And he's no longer there. He's no longer the director of Patriot Point. He is retired, so now he's just going to enjoy Clemson athletics for the rest of his life. He's one of the biggest Clemson fans ever. Don't hold that against him. He's a wonderful human being. But I got everything we saw. The coolest thing that I personally enjoyed, well, two of them. The gun room was really neat on the Laffey, and then just everything at the Vietnam War exhibit. So my uncle served in Vietnam. And so when he actually returned home, there's people throwing vegetables at him and all this stuff. He was one of the first helicopters to go into Vietnam. My uncle was. He was a helicopter pilot, saved a lot of lives.
Wow.
And so I got a really neat experience over there. And when I tell you they educate you, you hear stories you can't imagine. And they have these. Have you ever been to the 9/11 museum?
Yep.
Okay. It's eerie. Right, when you walk through the 9/11 museum in New York.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. When you walk through, as you know, Darren, and for those who don't know, nobody speaks. Like you don't talk. Like you're literally reading and you're listening, and a lot of what you hear, cell phone calls from when planes were hitting the towers, 911 calls, fire departments, radios back and forth. They have all of this, and they're playing it over the loudspeaker at the 9/11 museum in New York, which if you've never been to that, you need to go because this is the most well done.
It's awe-inspiring.
You cry. If you don't cry, you're not breathing. Like there's no way you get through there without at least one or two tears coming out at some point in time. Hearing fathers and sons and mothers and daughters and husbands and wives and these people. I don't know if I'm gonna make it out of here, but I love you, honey.
Mm-hmm.
And these things, and you hear not that, but you hear similar radio calls and stuff in the Vietnam War exhibit. When you sit in this movie theater they have built there, and you hear these radio calls and stuff, and choppers flying in Vietnam, and these pilots and what they were going through, and you're like, I can't imagine. These people are heroes.
Yeah.
They're heroes.
We had that conversation when we were on the boat on Friday because we went past the Yorktown. And as huge as the Yorktown is, I made the comment saying it still amazes me that you can land a plane on that thing. As big as it is, it's still amazing that you can land a plane on that thing.
Going as fast as they're going.
Right. And then and the buddy that I was with knows somebody who was in World War II, who was a fighter jet pilot, had 50 or 60 kills or something. But the thought of being a fighter jet in that war, when you're just shooting at each other in the sky, and then imagine, I don't know how many successful landings or unsuccessful landings happened on aircraft carriers, during the war. But it's just trying to imagine it. It's really impossible. I mean, you could do your best to sink your brain into that, but
no, it's impossible.
No, you'll never know what it's actually like.
That same day we were walking across the flight deck, and there's oftentimes at Patriots Point, not to get off on a rant here, we'll get back to some sports here in a second. These are cool stories. this gentleman's name has escaped me for some reason, and I'll have to ask Chris what his name was. So oftentimes at Patriots Point, you'll see a lot of these veterans just hanging around. Mm-hmm. They do. They welcome them. They sit. These guys. They just sit on benches and stuff, and don't be scared or too prideful or not think it's cool or something to go and sit down and talk with these folks. They enjoy this. They'll tell you their story. So I was introduced to this gentleman who flew a plane in the U.S. Navy during World War II, and so Mac Burdett looked at me and said he was in the air. He was set to drop a bomb. He was literally on his way to drop a bomb, and I don't know where. I think it was somewhere in Germany. And the radio call came over that said a peace treaty has been signed. Return home. The war is over. And my heart sunk, and I looked at him and I said, "You're kidding me?" And he said, "No, I'm not." And I said, so I asked this guy. I said, "What did it feel like? Like, what went through your head? You were just moments away from hitting a button and a bomb falling out of your plane and blowing up whatever you were set to blow up to defend our nation. At that time, you were defending the world."
Mm-hmm.
And he just looked at me and he said, "Hell, I was happy." And that's all he said. And I thought, that fits that generation perfect because they don't say a lot. Men of few words. And it was all men. Men of few words. And he just kind of smiled. And that right there, I'll never forget that moment. And I thought, I was happy. That's the response. Like, wow.
What a switch of emotions. Like you're in the midst of something. You're about to go carry out a duty.
Yep. About to drop a bomb.
And then just, come on back. You're done.
Yeah.
We're good.
No
worries.
Peace treaty has been signed. You're going home, boys. Turn around. Amazing. Patriots Point is where you can get those stories. We appreciate them presenting our national anthem every day on our program. All right, real quick, we do have some NASCAR news to get to here, and this is really, really neat. But I do want to mention this. I mentioned Griffey. So I missed this last night, and I sure hope that the MLB Network re-shows this.
I missed it too.
I didn't know. Of course, I was out of town with the surgery of my daughter. I've been oblivious to sports. But last night they aired a documentary on I think maybe the greatest center fielder to ever play the game overall. You got him. You got Willie Mays. Take a pick.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's called Junior, and it's about Ken Griffey Jr. Probably one of the neatest moments in the history of baseball is when him and his father, by the way, went back-to-back in Seattle. Are you kidding me? Come on, man. That didn't happen.
And then he hit his 500th on Father's Day.
Exactly. I mean, come on. Well, he didn't like the Yankees, and there's a reason for that, and I'm not really going to get into that. I would encourage you to watch this documentary, but he said, if the Yankees were the last team, if they were the only team that gave me a contract, I'd retire.
So, all right, I'm gonna need more.
So,
what happens
when his dad, he was a kid, I think maybe a bat boy or something, or he had been welcomed into the dugout when his dad was still playing. They were in Yankee Stadium, and Steinbrenner sent somebody down to the club or to the clubhouse, but then into the dugout and said, "We don't want any families in our dugout." Well, he looked out, and the Yankees' third baseman, and I can't remember what his name was now, his son was out there taking ground balls with him. And they were white. And Ken Griffey, and I don't know any, I can't speak for George Steinbrenner. I don't know. I mean, George Steinbrenner had, God only knows what. I mean, he was a goofy dude, but won a lot. He wasn't the greatest owner. He bought a lot of those World Series. That's Steinbrenner. So, and Senior basically said, I can't do this anymore. This is ridiculous. So Griffey, from that moment on, was like,
"Yeah,
I'm out.
I'm
out."
I mean,
I'm not.
If that's the story, it is very easy to believe that the reason behind it was racially motivated.
Yeah. If that
absolutely,
it could have been. That's the way. Obviously, the Griffeys took it.
Yep.
I am a huge Griffey fan. Always have been. I think he's got still the sweetest swing I've ever seen.
That's exactly one of the greatest. That left-handed arc, and then when he got it, just the bat dropping immediately.
You knew it. He knew it. We all knew it. He could go get him, although I still think in my time the best center fielder I've ever seen was Andrew Jones. Pure center fielder, not offensively.
Jim Edmonds.
I'd take Andrew. Andrew Edmonds made some great plays. Well, not some, a lot of great plays. But I've always said this about Andrew. Andrew camped under balls that other people had to dive for. If Andrew dove for it, you didn't have a prayer. If Andrew had to dive, it's because nobody else in baseball was going to get to it.
The greatest catch I've ever seen. I understand the Willie Mays thing. I get it. The greatest catch I've ever seen was Jim Edmonds running full speed directly at the center field wall, laying out.
Overhead.
He's diving away from the plate towards the wall, parallel to the ground, makes the catch.
Yeah.
Just a mind-blowing catch.
And for folks that don't understand, it's damn near impossible to judge a baseball as you're looking backwards over your head. You're taught to look over your left shoulder, right shoulder, adjust to the baseball depending on which side it's coming to. But this guy, he didn't have a choice. He just had to get on his horse and go, and he literally looked up, dove, and somehow the ball landed in his glove.
The greatest catch I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah,
because when you think about that, the Mays catch was iconic.
Yes,
okay, because of the moment at that point in time, people weren't doing that, and it was iconic. Maybe the greatest video of that era. But it's not the greatest catch I've ever seen. I don't know that that's in the top 4 or 5 catches I've ever seen.
No,
I don't,
the circumstance makes it a much bigger, better play.
Yeah,
but in terms of just overall aesthetics, like no, I've seen plenty of over the shoulder grabs. I mean,
yeah, I agree. I mean, Andrew Griffey's made some catches you'll never be able to get back. I'll tell you, in today's game, the guy that, and I know him, so I am a little biased here, but I don't know anybody out there that makes better plays than Jackie. I mean, Jackie is not a speedster. He can run well. Don't get me. Jackie just gets a jump that you just can't even fathom off the baseball. I mean, and I used to watch him do this in Columbia all the time. You'd hit him fly balls during practice and stuff, and he would be camped for 4 and 5 seconds, and you're like, I mean, how do you challenge that guy? Because he saw it so well off the bat. Most big leaguers can do that, but most people. It takes you a second to read, okay, am I taking a step back? Where do I go here? Jackie just reacted instantly. He didn't really read. He reacted, and that's what the great ones do, right? You know this.
Yeah.
And Griffey, I mean, those over-the-wall catches and stuff like that, those were reaction plays. I mean, Edmonds and it's awesome. I could do this all day.
Yeah, Griffey, cleats into the wall to push himself up. Those are great images too.
Amazing,
yeah.
and not even just up. You're talking about 3, 4, 5 feet over the wall.
Yep.
Just
leaving those marks on the wall from where you stuck the cleat in.
Yeah,
Loved it.
Yeah, those guys are great. Manny Ramirez but those guys were great. No, I'm kidding. He was brutal. He did know how to play the wall in left field.
Yeah, he could hit.
He knew how to play the wall. Playing the wall in Boston is incredibly difficult.
Yes,
you have to know how to play the wall.
But it made life almost easier for him because he knew. All right, if anything's over my head,
I just turn around.
It masked some of his inabilities.
Read the ricochet and move on. That's right. All right, here's the news out of NASCAR. Darren has retweeted this, I think, with the JB and Goldwater.
Yes.
Account.
Yep.
And I have done so as well. This is really cool. This is from Dustin Albino. Dustin is a motorsports reporter and podcast host at Front Stretch. He has tweeted that NASCAR drivers today are planning to support Bubba Wallace, and they will push the 43 to the front of the grid in unison. Everyone will then stand around the car for the national anthem. Which is really neat. So here's what I think is really neat about this. There's a couple of things that I would like to point out. Number one, the whole new situation. So obviously NASCAR is supporting, the drivers themselves are supporting Bubba Wallace.
Yes.
43, Richard Petty. Petty's going to be there today. He's putting his arm around Bubba. This is not a PR stunt. Richard saw what happened and said, forget this. This is ridiculous. I'm going to support Bubba Wallace because I support Bubba Wallace. That's really neat. They're going to push him to the front of the grid. Fantastic. For all of those who get a little antsy and a little judgmental, maybe, when it comes to standing, kneeling, whatever, they're standing for the national anthem together. So you're encompassing everything that we all bitch and moan about in one moment right here.
Mm-hmm.
Good for NASCAR. That is fantastic. I love it. They're all doing this. This is wonderful. This is going to be a great moment. Again, this might be NASCAR's true signature moment.
It's great for my NASCAR. The optics look great. It shows you more so than just the optics that NASCAR is, as Marty Smith said, and I referenced this at the beginning of the show, NASCAR is fully committed to moving in the right direction, to eradicating the flag, to being on the right side of the racism spectrum.
That's right.
And this is going to be a very strong emotional show of support.
Yeah, that's right. No doubt. NASCAR is you're seeing a comeback with NASCAR, I think, through this. NASCAR's strength through this time right now has been the leadership has been amazing. Amazing, Darren. And I think we could all learn from that. And so looking forward to the race. 3 o'clock, Fox today, coming up in about an hour and 6 minutes is when they're set to go. All right, are you ready?
Dude.
Are you ready for everybody's favorite day?
I'm always ready for everybody's favorite day. I even have a new video to play.
Okay.
During everybody's favorite day.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm ready for it.
I'm all fired up for this. I missed it last week. Thank you for carrying on this wonderful tradition. What is today? It is National Day calendar time on the JB and Goldwater show. So this is the first time I've seen the video. I haven't.
It's the first time I've put it up there.
Okay.
I need to resize it because it looks horrible. But
what are these little guys called?
They're minions,
Minions,
man.
that's right. All right, okay. All right, yeah, go Minions. All right, so today, I hope none of you are having issues, but if you are, you should appreciate these folks, especially in South Carolina in the summer. It is National HVAC Tech Day.
Yep.
Love you guys and gals.
By all means. I don't want to do that stuff, so please learn it. Come to my house.
The folks that keep us cool in the summer and warm in the winter, you're the best. We appreciate you. We thank you for what you do, especially here in the Low Country. All right, who's hungry?
Always.
No doubt. It is National Chocolate Eclair Day.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
I like chocolate.
I can get behind that. I need some DB's cheesesteak, though. I need like a lunch before I can have.
Okay.
But yeah.
Celebrate.
Anything chocolate, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm a chocolate guy, no doubt. National Chocolate Eclair Day. Celebrate in fine fashion in your cooled home thanks to your tech with a chocolate eclair. And it is also one of my favorite appetizers in the world. National Onion Rings Day.
Oh, yeah.
I love a good onion ring.
Where are the best onion rings?
Oh, good question.
You may have just pushed me to Outback Steakhouse for dinner, by the way.
Yeah, see, the blooming onion is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
I always love the day after New Year's Day because you can always go to Outback and get yourself a free blooming onion because of the Outback Bowl.
Yep.
You just go in and tell them you're a fan of one of those two teams. If the team won of the
right, so what you either get the shrimp or the bloomin' onion, depending on who.
Yeah, I always pull for the team of the bloomin' onion. Carolina was the Outback Bowl winner a couple years ago, and luckily bloomin' onion kicked in.
Yeah, no, the bloomin' onion, the shrimp's fine.
Yeah,
but the bloomin' onion's just classic.
Yeah.
It's the best.
We were the bloomin' Gamecocks.
Okay, sure. I mean, like here comes the rooster out of the ground or something. I don't know.
My favorite appetizer is calamari, but National Onion Rings.
I thought you were going to go when you said that. I was anticipating calamari.
Yeah, the best calamari in town. Free plug for these folks is downtown at Fleet Landing.
I think did we have this conversation? The octopus legs.
Yeah,
I can't. No,
that's not what they are.
Yeah, I only want the rings.
These aren't rings either. They look like cheese sticks. They look like fried mozzarella sticks.
Oh,
that's what they look like, but
okay.
They're not, and they're more tender than you could ever imagine.
So I can get behind that. It's when I pick up the calamari, and you can tell that it's like the squid legs.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan when people try to get zazzy with the sauce. Just give me the ranch. I'm fine with the ranch. I don't need all the zazzy sauce stuff. So they come up with all these, it's in our onion-based.
You got the tang.
Oh, forget all that crap. Just give me the ranch. I'll be fine.
Yep.
So National Chocolate Eclair Day, National HVAC Tech Day, and National Onion Ring today. Celebrate in style here in the Low Country.
Very good.
1:57. We will be done here in just a couple of minutes. I am so happy to be back. Happy late Father's Day to all of you. Wasn't here to wish that for everybody on Friday. I had a wonderful Father's Day. I hope you did too. We didn't do anything. We were just happy to be back together as a family. My daughter Riley did not travel this last week, so that was very hard being away from her for 5 days.
Is that the first time you guys had been away from one of them?
Yeah. It was hard on us, but more than anything, it was, I think, hard on the girls. But I'll show you this off the air. Really cool video of them seeing each other for the first time on Saturday.
That's nice.
Yeah, we had to wake Riley up. She was in a nap, but
that's okay.
But yeah,
she was probably accepting of that.
She was. Yeah, she was. But tomorrow, Gene Sapikoff is set to join us, and Michael Flint, former wide receiver at South Carolina, former Wando High School quarterback as well. He'll be our football analyst. He'll dive into the game itself in the fall. If you've ever listened to my show on ESPN, you know Michael's voice very well. He is so good. Michael will join us to talk about South Carolina tomorrow, but most importantly, we will talk about the passing of Bob Hayes. Rest in peace, Coach. I love you. He was a wonderful coach and athletics director at Wando for so long. He's affected a lot of people, and we'll catch up with Mike tomorrow and tell some Bob Hayes stories. He's a wonderful man, and Mount Pleasant lost a great one in Coach Hayes. Thanks, Darren. Thank you for everything you did last week.
Hey, man, welcome back.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do it.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad things went well. I'm glad you're back. Had fun today.
Yeah, happy to be back. Happy to have Grace and David on today as well. Thanks to them. Have a marvelous Monday afternoon here in the Low Country. We'll be back tomorrow on the JB and Goldwater Show.